And I think I talked about it too. I don't know if it was in a previous podcast, but just in general, when you say things out loud, it has 10 times the power than if you think it. And if you say something negative out loud, it's 4 to 7 times more powerful than that positive thing. So again, it's like we have to be careful with the words that we use, even when we're talking about ourselves or complaining, at ourselves, especially out loud. Welcome to the Level Up Ministries podcast. My name is Joey Bonfiglio.
And I'm Sandy Bonfiglio. Thank you so much for joining us. So our podcasts are all about leveling up our minds, our health, our relationships, and our faith. Today's podcast is all about faith and gratitude. And that's something for us in our journey that we've really seen kind of play itself out. That the more that we have faith and are grateful, the more that we have been able to accomplish some of the things that have been on our heart and that God has had for us. So in thinking about that, how have you seen faith or gratitude play out in your journey?
Well, I think for this move that we've done, going back 5 years now, from Connecticut to here, one of the things that I came across was a lot of different motivational speakers, and just doing some research on the science behind gratitude and faith, and having faith without seeing, right? So the what the definition of faith is believing in something without seeing it, knowing that the change is on its way. Prayer, you're praying into something, hoping that God is working in the background for your good. And so for me, it was one of these kind of leap of faiths, if you will, of we've done certain things a certain way, and almost like having a safety net, and this with your health condition, making this change from Connecticut to Florida was a very drastic change, especially with the kids, and just leaning into that faith and not being able to see what the outcome would be, but just knowing that God would guide our steps if we just made that first move, and taking that first jump is often scary, and most people try to avoid the unknown, and so for me, that the faith piece has totally changed. I thought I knew what faith was until we made this change, and just keeping that, and the reason I think that also ties into gratitude is because the positive, you have to find gratitude in what sometimes we feel might be kind of a negative, or if something didn't happen the way you thought it would. So you have to find kind of the positive, or the gratitude, or have gratitude for what you have, in either in that moment or just holistically.
Now, I think you had told me, it was one day before I was going to speak at a youth group, and I was super nervous, and you said to me that you cannot be anxious or nervous and excited and grateful at the same time. So that those are two different parts of our brain. Do you want to just explain that a little bit?
Well, it's funny that you even brought that up, because Cynthia at our church brings that up all the time, that I had mentioned the same thing to her before she went and spoke. So I'm kind of excited that kind of resonated. I didn't know it resonated with you too, but yeah. So basically, being nervous or excited gives off the same frequency and adrenaline, if you will. So if you say, instead of saying like, "Oh, I'm so nervous," if you just say, "I'm so excited," you're releasing kind of those same endorphins, but your body kind of is in a different state, and it kind of handles it different. But that's funny that you remember that too. So I'm glad that's resonating, because even for me, it's like when I do talks or whatever, I'm like, in the back of your head, you sometimes you don't believe that you're, but you are. There is that nervous excitement, but and once you get out there and just kind of start, you're gonna feel good. So, but it just kind of changes your like you're instead of being so tense, you're kind of like you get loosened up a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think too, you were the one that mentioned it, or I had read it in some sort of an article in regard to the comparison between faith and the laws of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
For example, like the law of gravity. We drop a book or a pen and it's going to fall. There's nothing we can do. It's a law, right? And there's like the law of attraction that says that when you think about certain things, that you think positively, that positive things are going to happen. Like that's also a principle or a law. And very similarly to faith, that when you are believing and you have that hope and that positivity and you are just believing God for whatever it is that you are calling upon, that is going to translate and that is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that we have seen that throughout our life, and it really is in essence the way that God made the universe. And can you give an example of how that has happened in your life, where you have just been in faith and in hope of God to do something and you have actually seen it come to fruition?
Well, I'll give you two. I'll give you probably examples on both ends, right? So, kind of what you were referring to is kind of like attracts like, and the same goes for the negative side. And when I was in a corporate job years ago, I remember I was frustrated with this certain, process and working with like a counterpart where there was just some churn that was being caused. And the more I kind of outwardly kind of complained about it or was like, why, I don't understand. It seems so logical, but they don't get it, and this and that. But the more I was talking to other people about it in other departments, it's like the more I was attracting that. More people were like, yeah, you know what, yada, yada, yada. And it was reinforcing that negativity, that negative, to the point where, I got almost stuck. It was like I was in this, I was anxious and I didn't want to go to work and all these things. But as soon as I stopped, it took time, obviously, but I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm going to let that go. No, I've mentioned, I brought it up to, whoever I needed to. If nothing gets done, so be it. I'm just going to keep going about my day. And sure enough, as soon as I stopped, kind of complaining or whatnot, the problem, or at least for me, people stopped coming and complaining, to me, and then
you attracted some positivity and
exactly. So that's on kind of the negative side, and I think I talked about it too. I don't know if it was in a previous podcast, but just in general, when you say things out loud, it has 10 times the power than if you think it, and if you say something negative out loud, it's 4 to 7 times more powerful than that positive thing. So again, it's like we have to be careful with the words that we use, even when we're talking about ourselves or complaining, at ourselves, and especially out loud. So knowing that our words have, a 10x power over our thoughts, if we keep those positive and in gratitude, they're powerful. And in going to, what you're saying about, faith and just the kind of the positive gratitude, the more I feel like the more gratitude that I've had over the years, the more positive things and outcomes have happened. And again, it was very we were in some valleys here with the move because there was so much unknown, and with schools and just different things, and so we had to lean into a lot, and it was very very difficult. But the more we kind of stayed in faith and knew that, but my feeling was, well, God gave me this vision, when I was going through that time of like, okay, how, I think that's the other piece too, is like not worrying about the how. I think we want to have the knowledge to know what the next step is all the time, and sometimes, you kind of get derailed, and then if you think too hard about like how you want it to happen, you're going to get stuck, and because sometimes God has a bigger plan, and it's not going to look the way you want it to look.
Yeah.
But
That's
even
good.
like where we are here, it's like the first house that we were in, for whatever reason, we ended up moving, transitioning back and then coming back, and I feel like God continues to kind of level up our our faith, and even this. It's like here, we started a ministry that I don't think would have happened if we didn't have to go through some of these, these hills and valleys along the way. So
absolutely, and that's the purpose of this podcast. Is for us to be an encouragement and for you to look at our life and our experiences and just be encouraged by them and have faith through them. I think as people in general, we just tend to just be naturally negative. Even like little kids, it's like toddlers, everything is no and mine, and we just tend to be like selfish and negative. And I think even me at this point, I've drawn close to God, especially through all the experiences that we've been through with the passing of our loved ones and just health issues. And, I've really leaned into God and drawn close to Him. And so I feel like I have a strong faith, but even with my faith, I still have moments of negativity and doubt. Like I have to wake up in the morning and be very intentional about reading my word. And all of my social media, I don't have a lot of it, but what I do have is all faith-based, because I cannot read anything negative or comparisons. Like that will just put me in a place for the rest of the day of which I will do nothing positive. And so I am very intentional about starting off my day by reading the verse in my Glorify app, by reading the verse in my YouVersion app, by being in my word, by just continuously reframing my mindset, because I'm very drawn to being negative and to not being grateful. And I really need to be intentional about that even after all this time. And I am a person, I think, of strong faith. So I just want to mention that and just encourage you to just continue to focus on positivity. That, in moments, since there's times where, my day starts off well and then some little thing will turn it, and I just really have to be intentional about, I'm grateful, Lord. Like I have to tell myself that, and it's just a process. And I think it's a process that I'm going to be going through for the rest of my life.
Yeah, well, and I think if it's like, when we talk about habits and, like morning routine, it's the consistency. The more consistent we are with those, prayer, meditation, affirmations, reading, positive, whether it's scripture or books, and we'll get into reading, I think, in the next podcast, but in almost replacing news with,
Right.
Obviously you want to keep up with what's kind of going on, but not to a fault where you're kind of doom. I think they call it doom scrolling, on social media. And that's the thing that I have a hard time with sometimes, is because I have to be on social media for coaching. It gets tricky, but again, it's the algorithms make sense. So the more, positive mindset things or people that you follow, you're gonna get more positive things into your feed. So it's all kind of work in progress. But I think it's that consistency and having that those healthy habits in the morning to start your day, and the more you can stack day after day, it gets easier. So
Yeah, absolutely. So we thank you so much for joining us, and we just pray that we can be an encouragement to you, and that you find times in your day to just thank God for all that you have, and to really just take time to build your faith. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care. We'll see you on the next episode.